What's up, everyone? It's Dr. Charlie. Hope you are doing well. In this video, I'm going to share with you how you can begin to release the pain in your butt or resolve the pain in your butt due to some type of piriformis syndrome and/or sciatica problem, but not how you might think. Plus, at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you an exercise that you can do to begin the healing process and kind of look at this a little bit differently. By the way, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Dr. Charlie Johnson. I'm a physical therapist. I have my board specialty in orthopedics, and basically I help people with unresolved back, butt, and sciatica problems learn to fix themselves such that they don't need pills, shots, surgery, and/or to rely on someone else to fix them. And finally, the purpose of this video is not to help you figure out if piriformis syndrome is the actual cause of your butt or not. I've already sort of done that by putting everything that I know inside of a DIY diagnostic guide. You can download that above, and/or you can click the link in the comments section or description below. And essentially this DIY guide lets you inside my brain and sort of exposes all my thoughts and my algorithms for helping you figure out what could be the cause of your pain. All right, so let's dive into it. Quick disclaimer, this video will not be a lesson on how to perform more foam rolling, massage, figure four stretches, nerve glides, stuff like that, which is used to physically release, or at least that's what you're told, the sensations of tightness in your back, butt, or leg. I think the rest of the YouTube world, Bob and Brad and all those folks, have that stuff covered. Because the truth is, look, these approaches are sort of old and outdated, and all of this pushing, pulling, prodding, poking, and things like that within the painful area only makes the problem worse for most people. If you're watching this, I can see the comments already, and this is something that you're really benefiting from, sitting on a tennis ball, foam rolling. Cool, keep going, that's fine, but for most people, 80% of people, this will actually make the problem worse. So instead, I want to talk about a more real topic and really get to sort of the root of the issue by chatting about something that most folks never really consider. And it's probably because it's so ingrained in how they just live life, even before the pain starts. So specifically, I want to talk about the three big things that lie beneath the surface for many folks suffering from piriformis syndrome and/or sciatica, and those who just feel like they can't get out of it. Again, this is something that's sort of ingrained in the way they've been doing things even before they notice symptoms. And these things I'm going to share with you in a moment elevate and amplify the pain experience, and if left untamed, can cause acute pain, something that happens due to an injury, to become something that has problems going away, becomes chronic, or chronic pain to live on in the form of fear. So remember that pain is just a danger signal. So anything that sends signals of dangers to our primitive brain can amplify the pain because it puts our nervous system on high alert, right? It raises the danger flag and it's viewed or perceived as threatening. And so beyond the pain that you might be experiencing itself, there are three negative behavioral habits that impact the pain experience and hinder one's or your ability to improve, especially with these conditions, because they're sort of mysterious. There's a lot going on there. We'll talk about that in a minute. And here they are. These are the three sort of behavioral habits or patterns, right, or things that people place upon themselves, and I see present in people who deal with these problems: pressure, worry, and criticism. So let's break these down. I want to give you something practical also, so hang around towards the end of the video to begin regulating these feelings and behaviors so that you can sort of get out of your own way and begin to approach this whole pain relief sort of journey or process from a more level-headed vantage point. So people ask me all the time, hey, Charlie, like, what is it about the people that don't get better, right? Because not everybody I work with gets better, or at least where they want to get. And when people ask me this, right, like these three things: pressure, worry, criticism, and these sort of personality traits, if you will, or these behaviors that have become ingrained, would be high on my list as to reasons why, because people just can't get out of their own way. And look, it's not your fault, but I am here to bring to your attention that these things are a very real part of the pain experience and can either help or hinder you. So disclaimer, before you stop this video and go back to doing more research and thinking, hey, this has nothing to do with me, I'm really a chill person, this and that, right? You know, and thinking that you really need like another exercise or stretch or something, which you might, but just for a moment, I urge you to at least hear me out in this video, all right? So let's talk about, again, each of these one by one. So the first is pressure, then we'll talk about worry, and then criticism. All right, so pressure. So not the kind of physical pressure you have in your butt, right, or your back or your leg or anything like that. Here. So not the kind of physical pressure that you experience in your back, butt, or leg here, but the kind of pressure you're putting on yourself to figure out this issue, right, and fix this problem here in your brain. And so these are a couple folks inside of my Glute Relief Accelerator program, my private coaching program to help people, solve these problems by giving people tools, knowledge, and understanding. And essentially, these people are fixing themselves with the resources and knowledge that I'm providing. And I have people check in throughout the program just to touch base, and they posted this inside of the healing community. What did she learn, or what did she get out of the phase 1 part of the program? There's 4 phases. She said, I got the realization that I'm putting myself under so much pressure, trying too hard to solve this issue, and I need to stop poking the bear and take a chill pill. So she said it, I didn't say it. She has a tendency towards hypervigilance, right? And just being sort of really intense or wound up by this issue. And that's not going to serve her well. And I'm glad she's noticing that early on. Another person literally says, hey, I'm overthinking my body scan. So I teach people how to self-assess so that they are not relying upon other people to assess them, and therefore not relying upon others to fix them. So this person is going through the body scan and kind of assessing how they're moving and whatnot and how they're feeling. And he said, just started the lessons, which are very good, by the way, but my mind is already in doubt, confusion, anxiety mode over having done the body scan wrong, right? Already catching myself over analyzing, worry, and boom, boom, boom. So overthinking is something that is a very common trait, which puts you in that problem solving mode and helps and kind of makes you grapple with, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? Right? Like, should I do this? Should I not do this, etc. And here's another person literally overthinking what to write in the title, right? So it's generally something that's ingrained within that person. Even that person is just somebody who sort of overthinks or overanalyzes things. So if that's you, just recognize you could be putting undue pressure on yourself and the pain relief process, which is not going to serve you well in this case. So if you haven't recognized yet, the process of trying to figure out all of this issue and sort of this struggle that you're going through and identify, in this case, the diagnostics of things or the exact source of your back, butt, and or leg pain is never ending for lots of people. And for some folks, look, the cause is clear. It's very straightforward. But for many others, the hunt, if you will, because that's what most people lead you on, the hunt for what's wrong is long, painful, and an exhausting process. Right? It's defined by many tests, different specialists or doctors' visits, and just failed treatments, things that didn't work. And look, I say this not to freak you out or make you worry even more, but to ease the pressure, right? To help you realize that even folks like myself who have been studying this stuff for years and think about this stuff all the time, often cannot clearly identify the source of symptoms. And it's okay. And whether you believe it or not, you're going to be okay at the end of the day. You just have to trust me with that. So look, everything that I do know about diagnostics is outlined in my DIY diagnostic guide. Literally, I show you the algorithms and the way I would think through kind of getting to the sort of structural source of this problem. And there's no secret in sharing this. In fact, I believe this should be public knowledge. So therefore, that's what I've done. And I hope it will save you some time, energy, money, and give you some clarity as to what could actually be going on. You can see here, just a preview of some DIY diagnostic guide stuff. Check it out if you want. You can download it above and or in the comments below. But that being said, look, even with everything I know and everything that's on there, it's believed that up to 80% of these back, butt, and sort of sciatic issues are of unknown origin, meaning we're not really sure what's causing it exactly. And truthfully, while you may not believe it and or you may not have been led to believe it, this is okay and still something that is totally treatable and resolvable for the majority of people naturally, if you have the patience and you're willing to trust in a process. So what I need you to do is I need you, easier said than done, to try to take the pressure off of knowing exactly what's going on, of needing to know exactly what's going on, and recognize the constantly sort of grappling and going back and forth with what could be going on and what people tell you and what they don't, and what you think it is or what you think it isn't, right? Problem solving and just pressure to figure everything out, right? It might serve you well in other areas of life, your career, education, things like that, as a problem solver, but being someone who's super analytical and a problem solver in this sense, right, might actually make you worse because it could actually fuel your pain experience. So moving beyond just the diagnostics and the diagnosis or what could be going on, pressure often breeds perfectionism during the treatment process. And it looks like this. So let's just say you're starting a new treatment approach, right? There's sort of this pressure, if you will, right, to get it right and, see results, etc. Right? So you have pressure plus this effort that you're putting into this new thing. And it goes two ways. There's a fork in the road. You either see progress or you see little to no progress, right? And if you see progress, right, there's this sense of excitement or hope, these kind of, good feelings, if you will. And as a result, what happens is if you're somebody who is sort of intense and puts the pressure on yourself, as well as some of the other things we'll talk about, then what will happen is you will maybe do 5 times the exercise that's working for you, right? You will put in even more effort, because if one repetition of something helps you, then maybe 10 will be 10 times better. So you put more effort into that thing in hopes that you will feel even better. On the other side, right, if there's little to no progress when you begin something or as you're working through a treatment approach, then you feel a sense of frustration, letdown, or failure, right? I call this despair, right? And there's negative feelings. And so what happens is, because you're a fighter and you have that pressure of like, I've got to make this work, and I'm a hard worker and all of this stuff, right? You put 5, 10 times more effort into the process again, trying to force it and make it work. Maybe if I just push through the pain a little bit more, maybe if I do this exercise again that didn't work a few more times, or if I just stick with it for another 6 months, it'll somehow pan out. But the issue, regardless of if you're seeing progress or little to no progress, the issue is that all of this effort and pressure around that pain relief sort of journey just leads to exhaustion and burnout, frustrates the heck out of you, which increases the danger signals to the brain, right? Amplifies the pain experience and leads you, right, to rejection of treatment. So this treatment doesn't work. And eventually, after that cycle repeats itself over and over and over, you become more and more skeptical, and you become less and less open to different approaches, which sucks for somebody like myself who has a different approach, right? And could potentially help you, but you might have your blinders onto it. But I get it. Just recognize, though, that this does send you on what I call the roller coaster of hope and despair. So I'm not asking you, as you listen to this video, maybe watch some of my other content, right? To maybe be hopeful that someone like myself could help you, or that there's a new approach out there that maybe you haven't heard of, right? But at the end of the day, just be open to it. So put a neutral line through that and just stay as unemotionally involved in that process. Easier said than done. And we'll talk about how you can change some of these sort of these behaviors, right? Of pressure and fear and worry and criticism and just hypervigilance and intensity around the process. But the idea is that you need to become indifferent to the outcome at the end of the day. More on that. I don't want you to virtually smack me in the face because you're in pain, you're looking for results. And I'm saying, hey, be indifferent to it. But there's actually a little bit of a nugget to that. And perhaps I can create another video. That being said, most people do ride the roller coaster of, oh, this is gonna really work, I'm doing really well. And they bad day, it's like, no, this doesn't work. And oh, I'm doing really well. And they just ride this, and it is exhausting. So this feedback loop, the one where you progress or no progress, and then lots of effort, and then exhaustion, and it doesn't work, and then you just continue to jump back on that roller coaster over and over again, leads people towards feelings of obviously being pissed off, frustrated, rejection, and just straight up anger sometimes. The second sort of behavioral trait that I want to talk about is this tendency towards worry or preoccupation. And worry is something that many people in pain experience, many people in general experience, right? And so we've kind of got sort of 3 phases, if you will, or 3 stages. So you are here, standing in the present, and then you've got the past, and then you've got the future, right? So you are here right now, grounded, you're feeling or experiencing whatever you're feeling now. Well, you have stuff that lives in the past. And most of this is like, hey, shoulda, coulda, woulda stuff, right? This is guilt. You are here. In the future, right, you have worry. And so worry is something that lives in the future. Guilt is something that often lives in the past. Worry is like, what if? And so think about it. If you're here, that little stick figure, and you have a test coming up in a few weeks, you might have worries or concerns, or maybe it's not a test, maybe it's an interview, something like that, something important in life that you value. You might have concerns that you maybe won't pass it, right? So maybe you're worried that you will fail, or maybe you'll bomb the interview or the exam or whatever it is. And very real worries. The problem is not worry in these thoughts. The problem is how you react to it. Do you or do you not? Do you chase it or do you not? Right? So the first step is to become aware, and hopefully this video is helping you do this. So that's a test example. But maybe for pain, something, hey, you could run in the past. Now you're here and you can't really do anything. And you're thinking, hey, will I be able to get back to running? Like, what if I can never run again? What if I can never hike again? Like, I've got to be able to do that stuff. So worry is essentially a form of preoccupation. And what does preoccupation sound like? You put worry into a question, it sounds like this. I wonder if I'll just have to live with it. Will this pain ever go away? I'm okay now, but wait until later. I hope I don't pay for this. Is today going to be a good day or a bad day, right? I wonder if I'll be able to play with my kids given all this pain, or I wonder if I can even have kids. I want to have kids, but I have so much pain. Can I do it? Will I be able to travel again? And I hope they have some comfy seats at the wedding, right? Or on the plane or wherever it is. So the longer you've been in pain, the more you train your brain to direct its attention here. constantly monitoring your pain, checking in with it, right? Mentally, like, hey, do I still feel it, right? And physically by like pushing on it, stuff like that. Feeling annoyed by it, wishing it would go away, feeling frustration and concern around it. It all directs your brain to the painful sensation. And it could be hundreds of times a day. I would argue maybe even thousands of times a day. It becomes basically all consuming for some folks, not all, but a lot of times, right? It's just a preoccupying and sort of a habitual habit over time. And as you're probably aware, right, habits can be hard to break. So you have to be careful with this. So preoccupation and worry might feel like something that's warranted given your situation. I would argue, again, there's nothing wrong with those feelings. They're pretty normal and very real. But realize that worry exists in stories about what you believe will happen in the future, not now. It's perceived by the brain as a danger signal, puts us in a state of fight or flight, this concept of worry. So another way worry and preoccupation shows up is like this. So have you ever said to yourself, oh, you wake up, it's going to be a bad day, or this trip I have coming up is going to be a disaster, be terrible, right? And so we call this predictive coding. It's basically a form of self-sabotage that essentially programs and determines your fate of whatever you're going to do, right? Usually as bad or negative in this case, before you've actually even done it. So you don't actually know, you're just telling yourself, well, this is going to be bad. And then you wonder why it's actually bad. So quick, honest question for you. So if you're watching this video, I want you to imagine for your moment that your child or your best friend or a family member, someone you care about, even if you don't care about them for whatever reason, I guess that's okay, but somebody has something important coming up. And if it's important, maybe there's a little bit of nervousness or anxiousness about it, but they're a little bit stressed. Again, maybe a big test, job interview, just as a couple common examples. Would you tell them, hey, you're going to bomb that. You're going to fail that test? I hope not. Probably not, right? That wouldn't be good. They probably wouldn't like you very much, right? So it's like, why do you say these things to yourself? Why do you say, hey, this is going to be a bad day? Like, oh, this is going to be a terrible day. Like, this car ride is going to suck. Like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do that. Why do you do that to yourself? Don't do that. You've got to catch these things, because the truth is, and you probably saw this in a previous video, right? You become what you think about. And if you're not careful, these things can manifest. So the single best way to manage feelings of worry is to take actions today that prepare you for the future. And I'll show you something that you can start doing today to kind of catch some of these things. The third thing that I want to talk about, the negative behavioral trait, is criticism. So have you ever set a goal for yourself, committed to something, and then fell off track for whatever reason, and then beat yourself up about it, right? And started to say to yourself, like, hey, I don't ever do what I say I'm going to do. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stick to things, etc. Right? This is criticism. So maybe you've tried also losing weight, for example, right? And told yourself you would go to the gym every day, but you get busy one day, you don't make it, and then you beat yourself up and sort of self-destruct, and then it's sort of, you're done, right? It's all over. Again, criticism. Or perhaps you've been given a sheet of exercises and haven't been as committed to it as you should. So I chat with people every day with unresolved back, butt, and leg stuff. And they say, well, one of two things. Either I did the exercises, right? But maybe I should have done them a little bit more frequently. Like, I wasn't as committed as I should have been. Or, right, pressure, the pressure side of the personality with folks who are dealing with pain is like, I did the exercises exactly like if you tell me what to do, Charlie, I will do it exactly as you tell me to do it, right? So either way, right, if you've said something like this to yourself, then there's some type of pressure or criticism around it. So maybe another way to think about this, you are someone who takes time for self-care, right? You do yoga, you try to zen out, you lift weights, you do meditation, daily walks, you try to do things for yourself. But in the back of your mind, you feel like, and I do this, you feel like you should be doing something more productive with your time. So it's like, even when you're engaging in those things, you're not really fully engaged, and you're not really coming from a place of authentic sort of doing stuff because you want to do things or because they're good for you. You're doing them because you have to or you should to. And your mind is sort of somewhere else. Or are you someone who will do whatever it takes to solve your issue? Sort of like what I was just mentioning. Like, Charlie, if you tell me to do something, I will do it. I am the best student. And these people, they seem like they're going to be really good students. But what happens is this serves you well in work and in school and in probably other areas of your life. But when it comes to solving pain, it just raises the danger flag, because you're putting so much pressure and becoming so self-critical of the process that it doesn't leave room for you to have any goof ups or any setbacks or anything like that. Because again, the pressure is just so high. Again, this is sort of an all or none defeatist attitude. So an example here of somebody inside of my private coaching program posted this, right? I'm scared in being a baby. So just from that, I'm scared in being a baby. Notice the self-criticism, right? As if being scared and having pain is not okay. It's okay. It's totally normal. You should be maybe freaked out, right? You have this thing. Ideally, you're not, but you have this thing. You don't know what it is, and you're a little bit lost and confused. Totally cool. That's why you're working with somebody like myself. I plan to start the total body scan this afternoon. I went shopping this morning because I felt 100% better last 2 days. Awesome. So hope high, right? It's hot here. And since this injury, I've had my poor feet who hate shoes, I'm a barefooted sandals girl, stuffed into hot sneakers. So notice the sarcasm, right? I wore my sandals. Guess what? I regretted 5 minutes through the store. Like, so just even from there, just stop there for a moment. Guess what I regretted 5 minutes through the store? Again, a sense of sarcasm, kind of criticism. It's like setting her up for a drop. Now I'm laid back in my zero gravity chair, feeling completely in pain all over again, despair, feeling no comforts in sight, mortified at the idea of doing any motion. My brain is saying, what if you really pinch something? And if it starts all over, or worse, right? What if something I do creates another injury? I can't stop the what ifs because I'm so scared. So remember, we talked about how worry lives in the future. So worry is sort of like the what if. It's a sense of, or a form of, if you will, preoccupation. The brain is just consistently and incessantly pumping out thoughts about what could happen, even though we don't know what's going to happen. This is tough. So notice again, the undercurrent of pressure to perform and a tendency towards self-criticism or destruction if things falter or don't work or something happens, to beat oneself up, or the tendency towards preoccupation and what ifs, plus just the genuine level of fear and frustration with the scenario that they're in. You might be there too. And just another thought. Are you genuinely engaged in the rehab process? I'm just saying you probably don't want to be. You'd rather have nothing, but this is the hand that you were dealt. This is what you're dealing with. So are you genuinely engaged in the rehab process? See it as an opportunity for learning and growth through the ups and downs, because it will. Recovery will not be linear. It almost never is. You're going to be like, oh, I'm getting there, and then it might drop a little bit, right? This is a long-term mindset. Or are you just trying to check the boxes by doing the exercises or things your doctor, whoever you're working with, told you to do because you think they will offer relief? Outcome dependence and short-term mindset. Ask yourself that, because realize that it's this idea of like, hey, maybe you've told, if you have a son or a daughter or somebody else in your family, right? Like, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, Johnny, right? Have you ever said that? Right? Sometimes it's not what you do, but it's how you do it. So you could sit there and maybe engage in self-care activities and meditate and do this and whatever, because you want to, and you genuinely like are engaged in that from a place of authenticity and like joy. Or you could be still looks like you're sitting there on the rock meditating, right? But inside you're beating yourself up, being like, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. It still looks the same action, if you will, but it's coming from a different place. Sometimes it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So I just challenge you to see this pain experience, no matter how unpleasant it is, because it is, as an opportunity to be kind to and learn about yourself versus one that breaks you down, because it can, and it will if you're not careful. Pressure, worry, and criticism. These are the three common feelings and traits of folks who find themselves stuck in pain, which continues to perpetuate the cycle and set off danger signals within the brain. And what I found is that even before the onset of pain, life for many folks, right, with these issues, with these types of unresolved pain problems, was pretty intense and is often riddled with a sense of intensity, pressure, worry, and self-criticism. Ask yourself, what was life like before? Was I stressed out? Was I worried? Was I putting a lot of pressure on myself? Was I beating myself up? Is that the kind of person I was? I can do that sometimes. It's okay. It's natural for lots of folks, right? But just realize it's not really going to serve you here. And approach it with that same type of intensity. Maybe you approach other things in life, like I approach these videos, and you can tell because I talk so fast, is going to keep you from getting better potentially. And pain becomes something, right, that serves as a new form of preoccupation. If this is how your life was before, and now you start to experience some type of pain, then it's just, now your brain goes there, right, and is fully preoccupied by that thing. It's the new thing on the block. It's the new kid on the block. And it's a form of essentially icing on the cake. So don't take this the wrong way. And then I'm suggesting that you brought on this pain, yourself, that you did it to yourself. No one in the right mind would do that, right? But I am bringing to your attention that these behaviors can hinder your ability to resolve this problem, right? To put your brain on high alert. And beyond just searching for the next exercise to ease your pain, you've got to do some real introspection. You've got to look within and sort of recognize any thoughts, feelings, emotions, and things like that. throughout the recovery process. And I would argue as the first thing you do when trying to solve this problem. So what's the solution? Like, how do you begin sort of changing this, this negative behavioral loop? Or something happens, you put more pressure on yourself, you really want it, so the stakes are high, and you try harder, and then it leads to burnout, boom, boom, boom. How do you do it? So here's the process that I like to use with folks. And again, it's not everything, but it's a start. And there's kind of 4 steps. So step 1 is to recognize. We'll go into this. Step 2 is to reappraise. Step 3 is to replace. And then step 4 is to trust the process. All right, so first things first, let go of trying to force certain treatments, foam rolling, stretching endlessly throughout the day, doing more and more, thinking it's your solution. This approach, I'm telling you, 80-20 rule, 80% of people, this will make much worse. 20%, for whatever reason, they just like pain and, you know, somehow they'll get over it. Okay. Or they think that this approach is working, but it's really just time. This approach doesn't work too well, folks. So the first step to resolving pain is becoming self-aware. This is sort of the recognize, if you will. So recognize the thoughts and feelings, all of that is floating around in your mind. It can be easy to become, you know, so hell-bent on just getting out of this problem and getting out of pain that oftentimes people neglect sort of their internal state. They're just running with it. Literally the carrot pain, you know, they're chasing it. They're just chasing it, looking for solutions. They're not even coming up for breath and sort of noticing, you know, what's going on inside. So you need to sort of learn to recognize how tense, worried, and critical maybe you've become on yourself. And the first step is to just acknowledge that and recognize it. And hopefully watching this video is something that's allowed you to do that at least a little bit. That's step 1. And something maybe to think about as you're doing that, right, is just, you know, picture yourself laying in the middle of a field, looking up at the clouds. Basically, your thoughts and feelings are those clouds coming and going. So you're trying to detach yourself a little bit. It's hard when like, well, like Charlie, I'm me, like I'm in my head, like how do I get out of it? I understand you're not going to walk out of it, or you're not going to pull your brain out, throw it in the middle of a field and look up, right? But what you can do is you can start to say, wow, like, that's really interesting. Let me just take a moment and let me just notice like what's happening, like how I want to immediately, as soon as something goes wrong, I want to either beat myself up or wonder like, what did I do wrong? Or I want to try to look for a new approach or whatever it is. Just notice this stuff. Notice any sensations or feelings in this case of pressure, worry, criticism, right? Any of those big 3 things. Next, you want to reappraise that these feelings are very normal and in fact safe, right? Like pressure might be good if you have like a big game or you have something coming up. It actually might improve your performance to some extent, right? Worry might be useful in certain situations. They're probably not going to serve you very well here, but they're inherently not good or bad. It's all contextual. So when it comes to getting out of pain, again, they're not really going to help you because each of these feelings is just a flag to the system. And if they place your body and brain in a more high alert fight or flight state, then that's not great for getting out of pain. If a bear is chasing you, yeah, absolutely. Pressure and criticism and worry would be really good, but not when you're trying to solve a pain problem. So your success or getting out of pain, just recognize this. This is a nugget here, does not correlate to your effort. Less is more. I say that after lots of experience helping people like you. So replace the feelings of pressure, fear, worry, criticism. Here's it too. And this is why I said, hey, disclaimer in the beginning. Don't just skip through this. Think this doesn't apply. Because notice there's other stuff here that also sets off the danger, you know, flag, if you will, danger signals. Anger, frustration. Charlie, I'm totally cool and calm. Yeah, but you're pissed off about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be talking about it for this long, and or you're concerned about it or whatever. So other feelings, right, that kind of put you in that elevated state can also contribute. So you want to replace. So we talked about recognize them, see them as they are, acknowledge that they're there. Recognize, reappraise is something that's normal and safe. There's nothing wrong with you for having these thoughts. In fact, it's fairly normal. Just recognize that they're not serving you at the moment. And then replace these feelings with an act of, in this case, actually doing something. I'll show you that in a second. An act of self-compassion, kindness, and curiosity. And you can't do what I'm about to show you from a place of like, okay, here we go again. I don't really want to do this, or like, I'm too busy. I've got to do something else, because it's not going to work. It's got to be something that you authentically want to try on to break the cycle. Recognize, reappraise, replace. So an easy way to do this is by replacing familiar, right? So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to replace familiar crummy feelings with positive sensations. So when you have feelings of pressure, you probably clench your teeth. or you squeeze your fists, or I bite and my jaw gets sore after a while. If you have feelings of worry or concern or self-critical, right, you might do the same. You might get sad, you might get stressed, whatever it is, right? You might notice that like your eyebrows do funky stuff. It doesn't matter. Maybe there's tightness in your chest. These inner thoughts and feelings are something that can express themselves outwardly via physical sensations. If you cry, well, how can you tell if someone's sad? Because they're crying. Crying is like a physical thing, but it's sparked from some mental, emotional framework and or trigger. So in this case, I'm saying we've got triggers of pressure, worry, right, and criticism that increase the danger signals, put you on high alert. And they express themselves outwardly via clenching of the jaw, the face, the mouth, whatever it is, right? Heart fast, kind of heat in the chest, or whatever you want to call it. But we want to replace these familiar sensations, which really aren't so great, associated with pressure, worry, and criticism, with other positive sensations instead of crummy sensations. So get rid of the yucky and in with the yummy. And look, this is not an effort to make them go away, because remember, they're normal and they're actually safe sensations. Again, it's good to have pressure and worry and things like fear when bear is going to chase you, survival mechanism. Useful maybe in the old days, but not so for this. So we're not trying to make them go away because there's nothing wrong with it, but we're simply trying to interrupt the negative behavioral pattern that often occurs with them. You start, oh, I wonder if this is going to happen. I wonder if tomorrow is going to be a bad day. And then that leads into, oh my gosh, well, what if I can't do this? And oh, I have a trip coming up. And oh my God, right? It leads to a string of other thoughts, beliefs, fears, worries, concerns, etc. So we're trying to interrupt the negative behavioral pattern, replace it with something that feels easier, lighter, and good within your body. Because the truth is this, right? This is kind of sucky, but what becomes familiar, even if it's unwanted, in this case, your pain experience, feels safe to your brain. The pressure, the worry, the whatever. Most people have been doing it for so long that it's just so familiar, and it begins to feel like home. And guess what? Not many people like feeling or leaving home. When you think about memories, right, when you're a little bit older, or even now, I would consider myself a little bit older, but I'm not old. When I think back, right, like what feels like home? Being somewhere on Christmas, or being somewhere right on Thanksgiving, or eating a certain type of food, or roasting marshmallows, or a certain smell, whatever it is. That stuff's safe. It's comfort food for a reason, because it's familiar. So in this case, if pain becomes familiar, and pressure and worry and criticism, and these negative thought patterns become familiar, then they will actually start to sort of be wired and perceived as something that's safe, even though they're really just your level of safe is always having the danger signals flipped up. All right. So we want to make these things not feel so much like home over time by retraining them essentially. And remember, and something just note, is that the goal is to just get good at feeling good. So many people believe that when their problem goes away, they'll feel good, but often their problem goes away when they feel good. Meaning, if you can feel good first, that's often when the problem goes away, versus like having to do stuff and feel good and then have no pain. So hopefully that made sense. But did that make any sense? Yeah. Okay, maybe it didn't make any sense. All right, you've got to get good at feeling good. I was asking my wife. There's Heather. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through an exercise, if you will, right, to start to replace these sort of yucky feelings and just tendencies with something a little bit more lighthearted and feel good. All right, so we're going to do that now. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to make yourself comfortable, right? You can close your eyes, you can sit if you want. If sitting's really yucky, you can lay if you want. Heck, if walking is something, or movement is something that just makes you feel good, you can go outside for a walk. It doesn't matter. Put yourself in sort of a positive state or a positive position, something that's comfy. And again, if you want to close your eyes, do that. If you're walking, I do not recommend that you close your eyes, because you could walk into something or off of something. Start there, find a comfortable spot and or something that feels safe, right? And I just want you to take a moment to practice bringing your attention inward and to simply familiarize yourself with your internal state. So we're just taking a break from the busyness of the world for a moment, and we're just sort of taking sort of notes and just scanning the body, if you will, of what we're feeling. And here's how I want you to think about applying this too. if you're starting to notice that you're worried, okay, if you're starting to notice that you're putting pressure on yourself, or if you're starting to notice symptoms, then realize that that's going to show up somewhere. So what I want you to do is I just want you to recognize like what that feels like. Like, how is that showing up for you? Are you noticing that you feel tenseness in the jaw? Are you noticing that your butt cheek's just on fire and you wish you could get out of it? By the way, if this pain is too bad when you're doing this, or if any pain is present, then you don't have to do it in a state of pain. Find a comfy position. Okay. And so let's just start by focusing on the physical sensations of, whatever you're experiencing. So if you have tightness in your chest, great. If you notice that some pressure or worry or criticism associated with you kind of clenching your teeth, then notice that, right? If you notice some type of symptoms maybe in your leg, if they're mild, that's okay. Just notice them too. And I just want you to kind of explore them. What do they feel like? Are they traveling? Are they growing, or are they shrinking? Are they intensifying, right? Just what's going on there. And now what I want you to do is I just want you to divert your attention to something else, some other physical sensation in the body. We're just going to use your breath because, well, everybody has a nose and a mouth, or at least most people, right? So I just want you to kind of turn your attention to your breath. And I just want you to notice it as it comes in and it comes out, right? And I want you to focus on the sensation of your breath wherever it feels most enjoyable and comfortable for you, whether it's in the stomach or the chest or the throat, or maybe your nose is clogged and it feels funky because one's closing as you're breathing in, you just feel stuffed. No big deal. Notice the sense of humor, right? So just have some fun with it and just sort of notice your breathing. Notice the coolness, right, coming in. Notice the warmth coming out. Maybe it's a cold day where you are and it's really, really cold coming in, and maybe really, really warm going out, or whatever it is. Just notice how it feels and get good at feeling good. Just notice how nice it is to notice the sensations coming in and coming out, and not feeling like you have to go somewhere, or you should be somewhere, or anything, right? And I just want you to allow yourself to enjoy this nice sensation of the breath coming in and coming out. That's it. We're not trying to do anything or change anything, right? We're just watching it with a sense of sort of detached curiosity and sort of a sense of effortlessness and ease. And it's like, imagine again, if you want to picture yourself laying in the middle of a field and just watching clouds on a sunny day go past, you could do that, right? Those are the sensations, or in this case, you're just watching yourself breathing from a detached state, or, watch what you're feeling as you breathe, as if you were sitting there and watching the sunset, right? You're not watching the sunset with a sense of intensity, right? Like you're studying for a test or trying to like figure something out, maybe like you feel you've been trying to do for so long. You're literally just watching it. You're still observing it. You're just taking it in, and just notice the breath go in and the breath go out. And that's all you're doing. And I just want you to lean further into it in a nice, easy way, knowing that as you're just focusing on the sensation of breathing and the air going through your nose and out your mouth, or in your nose, well, that's just what I said, and out your mouth. Just know that you're communicating messages of safety to your brain in the best way that you can. And so now it's like, hey, how does that feel, right? Are you able to access something that actually feels good within your body? And just recognize again that you're totally safe feeling the sensations. And we're just enjoying the physical sensation of what you're feeling. At the same time, we're just giving your brain practice, right? Such that it automatically can go there in the future instead of just feeling the tenseness, right? So maybe do this now. Go back to the tenseness that you felt. Maybe the clenching of the jaw, or the physical sensation, the sweatiness of the palm, or maybe some stuff that you had crawling down your leg because, you have this sciatica or whatever it is. And just notice what's happening to it. Now, here's the cool thing. I don't honestly care what happens to it. Neither should you in the moment, all right? Because either way, right, you're safe. But what you are trying to do is you're trying to lean into something that feels good. And you're just trying to see if you can enjoy it, focusing on the breath, knowing that the very act of just attending to this easy sensation is the best thing that you can do to sort of retrain your brain and send signals of safety and break that negative behavioral pattern of feeling pressure and feeling worry and just running with it and getting stressed out about it. So again, go back to the sensations that you noticed in the beginning of tightness in the palms or in the chest, or clenching of the teeth, right? Or of the fists. And what happens to it? What do you notice? Does it get less? If so, cool. Is it increasing? If so, all right. Just notice it. You're not trying to run from it. You're not trying to change it. What you are trying to do is you're trying to break the pattern of, as you build yourself up and you feel more intense, and you feel more pressure and stress around this problem, you go back into problem solving mode, just stop yourself. Don't continue it. Don't allow it to continue to run on, and don't chase it. Just notice it. Oh, wow. Recognize, reappraise as something that's normal and safe. And then replace it, right, by leaning into. So now we're out of the practice, all right, by leaning into a positive sensation. By the way, in this case, right, I just used your breath, again, because most people breathe. And for most people, it's fairly pleasant. At least I would assume so. All right, so at the end of the day, what do? We just recognized. This is what's going to happen next time. If you feel pressure, worry, just recognize where you're at. Hey, wow, that's weird. And here Charlie goes again. He's starting to get ticked off. Oh, he's getting really angry. He wants to punch something, right? Pressure, worry, fear, whatever it is, all right? Whatever it is for you. Just recognize it, a little bit detached and with a sense of playfulness. Notice I made a little bit of joke throughout that process, right? Terrible jokes, but still, humor can bring great relief, all right? So start there, and then you would reappraise it. These are normal feelings. These are normal sensations, right, that I'm experiencing. But instead of kind of like raising the danger flag when I'm sensing these things, as if a bear is chasing me, there's no bear chasing me. I've got to stop chasing these things, recognize these things, reappraise them as something that's normal, but just not serving me anymore. And then replace. And you're going to replace it by doing some type of internal introspection, if you will, interoception, by looking within and finding another physical sensation that instead of feeling clenched and tight and annoyed and all aggravated by this problem and going on and feeling, angry and frustrated, you're replacing it with something that feels good and calm and easy. So as soon as you notice yourself becoming more intense, worried, whatever, stop it, perform this exercise, right? And just practice calming down your system, getting out of the high alert fight or flight state that so many people in pain are stuck in, and replacing it with messages of safety and something that feels good, so that you can practice getting good, so that you can get good at feeling good and practice doing so. And the last part, right, it's kind of step number 4. So we went through recognize, reappraise, replace. Now trust the process. This is something else that helps a lot of people with this kind of confusion and chaotic sort of behavioral patterns of fear and pressure and worry and just the endless cycle, the negative feedback loop. So this can be a tough one real quick. And here's what I mean by trust the process. For folks in pain, right, I found this to be very true, but again, it can be tough to grasp. I say this, try, easier said than done, not to focus on pain relief, which is what you want so badly. And because you want it so badly, you're not going to be okay if you don't get it. Notice how high the stakes are. And instead lower the stakes, right? Because moment by moment, day by day, pain may go up or down. It'll drive you crazy. The good days will send you on a high. Remember that roller coaster, hope, despair. The bad days will take you for a ride, crashing. And you'll begin chasing pain physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's a real roller coaster and it's exhausting. And instead of focusing on pain relief, which can vary, pain can vary moment to moment, instead focus on a pain relief process and let pain relief naturally follow as a result of following that process. If we draw it out, right? Focusing on pain relief, up, down, drives you crazy. Often when you're in pain, you go insane for this reason. Because you're so focused on pain relief that moment to moment, right? Your emotions and what you're doing changes. But if you focus on a process which doesn't change, the fundamentals of riding a bike don't change, but the terrain might, right? So focus on the fundamentals, right? Learn and be willing to put in the effort to acquire the tools, knowledge, understanding, resources to solve the problem. Now, I know that's a little bit wish-washy. So what I will say is, look, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that process, check out some links below. You can sort of register for my free online workshop. I think it's called Beat Butt Pain. I haven't changed it, but that's what it's called. And it kind of walks you through my thought process, right? And it sort of gives you a lens or a view into the way that I do walk through the process with my clients, sort of how I help people get relief. And I do so in a way that teaches them, right, a 4-step process for solving the issue. So this way, instead of going and riding the roller coaster, of ups and downs. People feel really grounded by understanding what they need to do, why they need to do it, how to go about doing it, etc., by learning the process first and then applying it to their life and unique situation. So that's it for now. Hopefully you found this useful. I would absolutely love if you could like or share this video. Also comment below, let me know your thoughts. Have I gone crazy? Have I not gone crazy? Either way, let me know, folks, and feel free to hit subscribe. Again, for more like videos, I have a ton of content out there to teach you what you need to do to solve these very painful and mysterious, often problems. Also, check out my DIY diagnostic guide if you want to get inside my brain and see exactly how I walk through the process of trying to get to the structural source of symptoms if it's there. Thanks, everyone. Until next time, chat soon.